One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small. And the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall.
All the gin joints and
Too busy living.
I watched sea beams.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
What a joke, my friends. What an abysmal and macabre joke this movie is. 2001 Space Odyssey. Oh my God. Indeed. It's inscrutable, plodding, boring, disconnected, pretentious, preachy, completely all over the place. It just makes absolutely no sense. It's a pastiche of BS, mystical BS. Okay, yeah, there are just this movie fails in every single category of what I consider good movie making. It has no storyline. It's got no drama. One brief piece of drama with Dave Bowman, the astronaut, and Hal, the computer, 9000, the perfect computer. So it has very tiny little bit of drama. It has no good writing. There's almost no writing in this. It has abysmal pacing. There's no protagonist in this for you to care about, and there are just very few characters at all. We hardly get to know them, so it's not about the growth of characters or us being able to relate to characters. So there is no acting. There's not much acting on this. There's no real good acting on this. Dave and with the computer is good for a few moments. That's about it. So since there's no real acting or writing on this, there's not just a whole bunch of directing. This movie is mostly stage props, stage scenes. So you can't possibly get a Best Director award for this, which Stanley Kubrick got in a few arenas on this. And there's no musical score. So those are the 8 categories. The music is classical music. It's lofty and is okay, I guess, in certain places. Thus spake Zarathustra. But this movie is about the obelisks. It's about some supernatural entity or whatever fucking with the human race. This is the Bible writ in the 20th century is what it is. And it is ominous. That's what Kubrick has to say in this, even though he says he's not really sure entirely what it's about himself. He says it was vague. He wasn't necessarily trying to make it vague. He just wanted to appeal to people's, as he put it, their subconscious, appeal to your subconscious, whatever that is supposed to mean. What it means is nothing. He doesn't know what he's doing. So what he ended up doing, every movie is about something, whether the director knew it was about that or not. This movie is about the obelisks. The obelisks are the main character, though the HAL 9000 computer is sort of a secondary main character, and the 3 primary human characters are sub-characters in this. The obelisks fuck with humans. And so they show up early in the movie. It's just an interminable 20-minute sequence with the apes. Kubrick showing off. This is a vanity play. This movie is a vanity project by Stanley Kubrick. I'm going to show you what apes probably did. What did they do when they finally learned how to do something like hominids? I'm going to show you space vehicles before the space age starts about 1 year later with the landing on the moon. He knew that was about to happen. Everybody knew that was about to happen. We were entering the space age. Well, Kubrick jumps the shark. Hey, look, this is what gravity is going to look like. This is what spaceships are going to look like. This is how people are going to stumble when they're walking in a spacecraft, a stewardess. Can you believe that? What a horrible scene that is. They're going to have grip shoes. Yeah, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you a pin floating in a vehicle. I'm going to show you the spacesuits. I'm going to let you hear the breathing that happens inside of a spacesuit. I'm going to send you on a psychedelic trip through Jupiter. I mean, this is a vanity project by Kubrick that is a scatterpiece of nonsense. And but getting back to the obelisk, which are the sort of inscrutable main character in 2001, they show up among the apes, and it's a pretty stark scene. So that's kind of nice in the sense of if somebody's gonna fuck with humans or apes before they become humans, the apes wake up and they see the obelisk. And the obelisk, what does the obelisk do? The obelisk gives them an inspiration, gives the apes an inspiration. Sort of sets in their higher faculties, evolutionary style. So what is the obelisk? What does Stanley Kubrick have the obelisk do? Does he have to the apes? Does he have them learn how to start fires, or learn how to weave baskets, or create pots to put water in, or create sharp weapons to hunt animals in so they can feed themselves? No, 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 no. He has them murder. That's the first thing he has them do. Pick up a thigh bone and murder their opponents. This is what Stanley Kubrick is saying about humanity and about this being what it wants humanity to do first. That's the first thing he's showing. This isn't an accident. That's not an accident. This is Stanley Kubrick saying this is what happens when humans get higher minds. So what later on, when they're on the moon, in the next sequence, that first sequence was about 20 minutes. The next sequence is about 30 minutes, interminable flights on spacecraft. The first sort of semi-main human character that comes on is boring and duplicitous. He lies. Of course, he's a politician, so of course he's going to lie. And what does he do? He falls asleep on the shuttles, not once, but twice. Falls asleep. That's what Stanley Kubrick has him doing. In a movie, he's got him falling asleep. Wow, that's interesting, Stanley. So anyway, but the interminable stuff. So finally we get around to the obelisk at the end of this 30-minute segment. This duplicitous politician in a space suit with 5 other people in spacesuits go up to the obelisk. They're allowed to touch the obelisk like the apes did. We get the same sort of vision above the obelisk of, I think it's the earth or whatever it is. So you're thinking, oh, well, what's the obelisk going to do? Is it going to inspire the already high-minded humans to do something even more high-minded? No. The people in the spacesuits back off to take a picture. You know, benign, just going to take a picture around this obelisk. Well, evidently the obelisk, the God obelisk, supernatural being, you know, you're not supposed to take pictures of God. So what does it do? It sends out a piercing sound that has all 6 people in agony. Yeah. And then segue, bam, we're done. That's it. With the whole moon experience, with the second appearance of the obelisk, what happens to these 6 people in this? We don't know what happens to them. Did they die? Did they just writhe in agony and die? We're not allowed to know. The only thing that Kubrick lets us know is that the obelisk was petulant or whatever, and it just decided, damn it, I'm going to punish these humans for taking a picture. Really, that's all you can really take away from it. Well, it turns out that piercing signal, or that piercing sound, was a signal to Jupiter. We don't find out about that for another hour on an interminable space flight to Jupiter, the 18-month mission. Yes. There's nothing, there's no meat in this movie. There's no plot line, there's nothing to wrap your head around in this movie. So what happened to him? So the obelisk obviously could have sent that signal in a radio wave or something that was not a piercing sound to where the humans would not have even known about it right then. But that's not what there's a punishment. It's a punishment of them. How dare you get close to me? You do not get close to God. You're simply carbon life forms. That's the message in this movie. carbon life forms are not worthy of being noble. There's something outside humans that will always fuck with them when it wants to, how it wants to, and for whatever reason it wants to. That's the message in this movie. How do you like that one? How about that dystopia? Because that's what this is. It's a dystopian mess. You have to smoke some weed or drink some wine and watch this as a comedy, because this is a comedy movie. It's a comedy. It's a joke. It's not deep. There's one critic who called it, what was it he called it? He called it a shaggy God story. I love that. This is a shaggy God story. Yes. Okay, so what pops on the screen after the obelisk on the moon is Jupiter mission 18 months. 18-month mission to Jupiter, or whatever the hell it says. So you're like, okay, why? Why? Well, we find out later, 1 hour later of movie making later, we find out that that signal from that sound from the obelisk on the moon was a signal to Jupiter. Why? Well, there are obelisks circling, orbiting, floating around Jupiter that evidently the obelisk was contacting, even though the supernatural being that is in charge of these obelisks, we find out there's a bunch of them, these obelisks, is the one in charge. So is he or she or it communicating with itself? Why does it have to send a signal? Well, evidently it has to let the Earthlings know so that they can go to Jupiter and go on a psychedelic mission down into Jupiter and be on Jupiter. But let's back up a little bit. During the 18-month mission, we've got the second main character, which is the HAL 9000 computer. Yeah. Well, this is something in itself. This is Stanley Kubrick saying, okay, so you humans think you're so good you can create a computer. Well, guess what? The computer's going to fight back. It's going to be sentient. And it's going to murder the entire crew. We don't know why this is happening, folks. Why is this happening? We've already got this somnambulant mess of a where the obelisks is making humans murder or attacking them and possibly murdering them on the moon. And now we've got a computer going rogue, murdering the entire crew, killing one of the only two astronauts awake on the crew, and then tries to kill the last one. Well, the last one cleverly gets back inside and disconnects the higher functions of the computer, and then we are then made to allegedly sympathize with the computer because the computer sings Daisy.
It's called Daisy. 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 Give me your answer too.
While it's dying, while he, she, it is dying, when its higher functions are being disconnected by Dave. That's actually a pretty good scene. It's a throwaway scene. But Daisy, Daisy. So yeah, all of a sudden, this computer, the HAL 9000, has murdered the entire crew, and you're actually feeling a little bit of sympathy towards this mass murderer. That's what Kubrick has done. He's made your sympathy, yours and my sympathy, allegedly, is supposed to be towards a computer. And so far, we've had no sympathy for humans. Zero. I mean, this other astronaut, Lockwood, when he is disconnected by HAL and thrown into space, we don't even get to see that. All we see is his body floating. We're not even allowed to connect to Lockwood, whom we didn't really like that much. I mean, you don't really get to know him. He's very sort of offhanded with his parents in a little recorded message they send to him. He's not even really paying attention. So you're like, wow, this guy, I don't think I even like this guy. And then Dave Bowman, we don't get to know him. These guys are so stupid that they talk in front of the computer, so the computer, HAL 9000, reads their lips. They turn the pod around unbelievably. I'm sitting there watching going, you better not turn that pod around so he can see you. Wait, they do. The computer reads their lips, realizes that they're going to disconnect him. I mean, come on, there's so many holes in this movie. It's just stupid. You can't sympathize with the humans because they're just constantly stupid. Even the astronauts are stupid. So yeah, so this whole 1 hour filmmaking segment, you have no idea what's happening, why they're there, why they're going to Jupiter. The obelisks don't appear yet. So all of a sudden, Dave, after he disconnects Hal, realizes that it's a mission to Jupiter because of the signal that was sent. So it's searching for intelligence on Jupiter. Well, at this point, he doesn't have Hal. He doesn't have the crew. He can't go to Jupiter or he's going to die. But the next scene is him in this pod going down into Jupiter, but he's not in control. It's an interminable 9.5 minute segment, folks, of him psychedelic stuff, which back in the time, 1968, this is a 1968 movie, back in the time must have seemed pretty advanced, the way Kubrick does the visuals and everything. Well, it's kind of a joke now, really, it is. But then there are these brief half-second shots of Dave in these scared, frightened, out of his mind looks where he's just disconnected. And then there's an aging sequence on Jupiter where the man is made to face his own mortality. And those scenes are disconnected. We're not allowed to really sympathize with him. It's almost ethereal, and we're separated from the experience. Dave is separated from the experience. It's almost like he's looking at it as a third person. We're looking at it as a third person. We can't even connect to Dave's, the horror. Seriously, the heart of darkness here. We're not allowed to connect with all of that. And then how does all of this end? It ends with the obelisk at the end of his bed when he's in his 90s or 100 years old, staring up at it. And the embryo, there's a fetus that shows up in a bubble, I guess an embryonic bubble or whatever, above his bed. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Rebirth? Birth? Rebirth? Death? Who knows? Even Kubrick doesn't know. And then the final scene in the whole movie is this fetus magically orbiting above Earth, and the bubble, the embryonic bubble the fetus is in, is as big as Earth. The fetus's eyes are very big. What is that? Is that a new beginning? A rebirth? Is it Dave? Is it somebody else? Is it humanity? Who the hell knows? Nobody knows. It means nothing. This whole damn movie is just a cynical enterprise in vanity filmmaking is what it is. It's a hodgepodge. It's a mess. And if we were ever curious as to whether there's a mystical, religious aspect to this, well, Kubrick actually sort of implicitly said there was when he responded to critics the few critics, most critics love this movie. It's on the top or near the top of the top 100 list. Unbelievably. Well, one critic who blasted the movie, well, many did, but Kubrick responded to one and said, and called these critics who do this dogmatically atheistic. So there you go. This is supposed to be a religious movie, some sort of religious connotation. But getting back to the fetus, you can have no hope when you see the fetus at the end. You just can't have it. Because even if there is a new beginning for humanity, after Noah's flood, well, it didn't work, did it? It didn't work. You've always got this supernatural entity who can interpose, who can interfere at any moment. If it doesn't like what you're doing, or what you did, or who you are, or what humanity's doing, well, then you all get flooded. There's a mass slaughter, a mass murder. Or you go on a psychedelic trip to Jupiter and age prematurely, and are living a nightmare. I mean, this is a horrible movie unless you just want to have some fun. 2 hours and 20 minutes of plodding, fun. It's been called morally, by the critics I respect, it's been called morally pretentious. One of my favorite critics, Pauline Kael of The New Yorker, said it's monumentally unimaginative. It is. There's no imagination in this, which is kind of ironic, considering that I think Kubrick really thought it was. It's intellectually obscure, morally pretentious. Yes, isn't that what I just said? Inordinately long. It's a film out of control. That's exactly what it is. I'm not even going to go into what I would normally do, and that's those 8 things: the story, the drama, the writing, the pacing. Pacing is horrible, obviously. Characters, acting, directing, musical score. Every bit of it sucks. This movie isn't worthy of me going into each one of those individually. It's unfortunate, I hate to say that, about a movie that so much time and effort and money was put into, but Kubrick screwed the pooch on this one. This movie needs to go into the dustbin of history. I'm giving it 1 popcorn out of 10. That's all it deserves. I mean, it's probably going to be the only movie that's considered great or very good by critics that I'm going to give a 1 popcorn to. I would imagine. I can't imagine ever giving another 1 popcorn rating to a movie, but this one deserves it. It's just horrendous. Okay. All right, y'all let me know what you think. Give me some movie suggestions, but let me know what you think about what I just said. And we'll chat in the comment section. Okay, take care of yourselves. Bye now.